Hey everybody, welcome back to the Financial Freedom Show. My name is Rob Berger. In today's episode, I'm going to cover a budgeting app that I've started to use, and I got to tell you, I love it. Kind of seems like an odd thing to say about a budgeting app. It's called Tiller, and it's an app I've known about for a long time, but never really did much with until the last couple of months. And now I'm kind of addicted to it. Longtime viewers know I love personal capital, particularly to track my investments, although it does have budgeting features that I use. But Tiller really hits it out of the park when it comes to budgeting, tracking your net worth, and a lot of other things. And so we're going to cover that in today's video. Now, at a high level, what Tiller does is it allows you to manage your finances through a spreadsheet. You can use either Google Sheets, which is what I use and what I'm going to show you today, or you can use Microsoft Excel. Now, I like spreadsheets. They're easy to use, they're easy to understand. You have complete control over the data. But when it comes to budgeting, there are really three big problems with spreadsheets. The first is you've got to enter the data manually. And after a while, I think a lot of folks, myself included, I just don't mess with it. It becomes too tedious. I stop using it. That's problem number one. Problem number two is if you want it to look good, you've got to come up with some templates. You've either got to go out on the internet and find them that have great sort of financial dashboards and just a pleasant way of looking at all of these numbers, right? Or you've got to create one yourself. Now, some people really love doing that. I confess I'm not one of them, but that's problem two, or the lack of templates. And then the third problem is tools. I mean, even if you want to do some simple things like split a transaction across multiple categories or have the tool automatically categorize your expenses, yeah, you can start programming a spreadsheet to do that, but unless you're really into that, it's really, really tedious. The good news is Tiller solves each of these problems, and we're going to walk through in today's video. I'm going to show you exactly how I use the tool. Now, to begin with, let me show you on the screen. This is Tiller. This is sort of the main page and where you would go. As you can see in that big green button, they have a free trial. It lasts for 30 days. So you can try this out for free for 30 days. After that, I think it's $79. Let me make sure I've got that right. Yeah, 79 bucks a year comes out to what? $6.58 a month. There are free options. I mean, again, you can track your budget and personal capital for free, definitely an option. I have found, though, that Tiller is absolutely worth every penny I pay for it. So that's sort of the basics. You do need a Gmail account. Of course, those are free. You do sign in with your Google account, and the reason for that is going to become clear. Let me actually show you my account in Tiller. Here it is. And here's the deal. Tiller allows you to connect all of your financial accounts, right? So you can connect checking and savings, all your credit cards. You can even connect retirement and taxable investment accounts. You can attach both personal and business. So you can see I've created actually two budgets. I've got the Berger family budget. This is our personal budget. And if I do this drop down, you can see I have these various accounts connected, but not these. They're all connected to Tiller, but only the ones that are checked are connected to this spreadsheet. And that's one of the things I love about Tiller. You can connect all of your financial accounts, and then you can feed the data into up to 5 different spreadsheets. So in my case, I've got the family budget, which I just showed you. And then I have one for my business. And of course, for my business, I connect different accounts. I connect our business accounts. So at the moment, I have 2 business checking accounts and 1 business credit card. And I connect those accounts to the business budget. I'm going to actually create a third spreadsheet and connect investment accounts. And the main reason for that is I love to track the interest and dividends we earn from our investments, and Tiller makes that extremely easy to do. Now, that raises a question: how in the world do you connect an account to begin with? It's really easy. You come down here, you click Add Accounts, and you get this pop-up box, and you can search for your bank. And so far, I've connected a number of different banks. I've had no trouble at all. Let's just see. I don't bank at Wells Fargo, but let's just see. Yeah, they've got Wells Fargo as an example. So if we were to click that, if you had an account at Wells Fargo, you would put your username and password in for Wells Fargo. Now, here we need to think about security. Tiller uses Yodlee, which is a goofy name. I'll give you that. But let me talk to you face to face here, because this is really important. They use Yodlee. Yodlee is sort of an industry standard way to connect financial accounts. I think 9 out of the largest 15 U.S. banks use it. And they use, it's obviously it's encrypted. All of that is critical whenever we want to connect accounts. One thing I highly recommend is that for all of your financial accounts, you use what's called two-factor authentication. That's where you need your username and your password, but then they're either going to text you a special code that's usually only good for a minute or two, and you have to type that code in to get access to your account, or sometimes they'll use an authentication app like one provided by Google. But here's the thing, Tiller works with that. So if you have two-factor authentication set up on say a Wells Fargo account, let's go back to the screen, it'll work with that, because what will happen is after you put in your username and password, it'll process for 20 seconds or whatever, and then another screen comes up, and however you have two-factor authentication with Wells Fargo set up, let's say they text you a code, there'll be a screen that says, hey, we're going to text you a code to this phone number. Is that okay? And you click the button, and then you get the text and you enter it, and it's only then that you can actually connect the account. Very, very important. The other thing to keep in mind is Tiller doesn't actually save your login credentials. If I banked at Wells Fargo and I put this information in here, it doesn't get saved in some database at Tiller. They don't ever have that information. And once they do connect an account, all they can do is download transaction and balance data. That's not like they can go in and move your money around or, God forbid, take it out. They have absolutely no control over that. So that's how you connect an account. We could, I don't know, let's try, Ally Bank. Are they in here? Yeah, they're in here. I mean, pretty much everyone's going to be in here, I think. I don't know, is PNC? Yep, PNC is here. So I've yet to actually find sort of a major institution that's not, can't be used in Tiller. And the connections have been very easy and they've worked very seamlessly. So after you connect whatever accounts you want to connect with Tiller, you want to, this is the next step, create your Google Sheet. Now, as I said, I've already got 2 created, but you can create up to 5. And so for this video, I'm going to create a brand new one. So we would come over here to start with Google Sheets. And this is where at the very beginning, I got confused by all of this, because I'm looking at all this over here and I'm thinking, what in the world is going on? But you basically can ignore all this. You just come over here and you say, use the template. Takes a second. And then you get this. There is a 2-minute video that you can watch, but you're watching this video, so that's good for now. And you're going to get another couple of clicks you've got to make. First, this add-on pops up, and it's called the Tiller Money Feeds, and that's what actually will connect your bank accounts that you've already connected to Tiller to this specific spreadsheet. So all you got to do is click Use. And it's going to take a couple of seconds to process. And then link the sheet. And then it gives you, as you can see, a list, and I'll just collapse this so you can see them all, a list of whatever accounts you've connected to Tiller. And here you can decide, what you want to connect to this spreadsheet. So what I'll do, I think for our demo, I'm just going to connect a credit card, and it's the Citi Double Cash credit card. It's a card we've carried forever, a great card, 2% cash back, and no annual fee. So we use it a lot. So we should have a number of transactions. What it'll do is once you connect whatever accounts, is it will download 90 days worth of transactions is typically what I've seen. It'll go back 90 days, and you can see all of these tabs at the bottom. They start to get filled in. And this is sort of they call it insights. You can kind of think of this as sort of a high-level dashboard. And of course, over time, depending on what accounts you link, it'll also show your net worth, your assets, and your liabilities. Now, if we go to transactions, we'll see a whole bunch of transactions that get downloaded in here, right? The actual place to start, though, are categories. This is really, I think, the first step to getting this set up. And you can see that what Tiller has done is set you up with about 20 pre-filled in categories. Now, The category I think is kind of obvious to understand, but then you get groups, and it's like, what in the world is that? Well, if we go to the monthly budget tab, you'll see that the groups are these gray lines. And so what you can do is you can create whatever groups you want to organize all of your expense categories. One option here that I think a lot of people might like is you can use groups to track what's called the 50-30-20 budget. If you're not familiar, 50% would go to needs, 30% would go to wants, and 20% would go to what I call freedom. That's where you're saving and investing and possibly paying down debt with the remaining 20%. So what you could do, and I'm just going to overwrite some of these, it doesn't really matter for this demo, but I could create basically three groups. I'd call one needs, I'd call one wants, and I'd call one freedom, right? So if I look at this, I'll call phone and utilities actually as needs. Restaurants, I would probably classify as wants, although sometimes they feel like a need. And then we might not have any savings here, but let's say we were going to emergency fund. We wanted to classify transfers in an emergency fund. I might call that freedom. So that's the idea. But again, however you set up the groups, totally up to you. There are three types: income, expense, and transfer. Transfer is important. Transfer would be, for example, when you used your checking account to pay off your credit card bill. That's not really an expense per se. You've already categorized the expenses as you've made charges to the credit card. Paying it off is really just a transfer from one account to another. And one of the nice features of Tiller is that you can hide a category if you want. So you can hide, in this case, any transfers, because again, you don't really want them showing up in your budget. You've already budgeted the amounts that you added to the credit card. Another use for hide is in this example, perhaps you have to put work-related expenses on your credit card, and at the end of the month, your employer pays you back. You don't really want those hitting your budget because you get the money back. So you could hide those from your budget. So step one with Tiller, and this is probably true with any budgeting app, is to go through and figure out what categories you want, how you want to group them. And then you can actually set your budgets here. Now, we have it starts here, as you can see, January 2021. I'm actually recording this video in March. So I could go back and categorize all of my expenses back to January 1. If we go to the transactions tab, you can see over here, in March, I actually get data going all the way back to December. Or I could say, I don't want to mess with that. I just want to start in March. So check this out. If we open this up, we can actually change this date to March. And watch this. When we do that, so you can see it cascades all the way to the end and goes out 12 months. So it changes not just this column, but all of them. Now, for our purposes, I'll just put it back to January. And again, it'll just change it back. And then you can go down the January column and just put in whatever budget amounts you think you're going to spend. So for a phone, I'll just say $100, and it does the same thing. It cascades out. Now, if for some reason you knew in July you were going to spend more, you could go in and change that, of course. But this is pretty nifty because you can basically just go down the one column, put in your best estimates of how much you'll spend per category, and then it'll populate the rest of it. Now, what I tend to do, though, is actually leave this blank to begin with if I'm starting from scratch, because I like to see how I'm spending my money. So I'll give it a couple of months and not actually worry about a budget amount, but just track my spending. And then based on, a couple of months of data, then go through and start putting budget amounts in. But that's the great thing about Tiller and spreadsheets in general, is you can decide how you want to do that. Now, once you've got your categories and a budget, if you want one, you can come up to your transactions and you can start categorizing. So recharge is medical, which actually I don't think they start off with a medical category, which I thought was kind of interesting. So that's okay. Good example. We'll create one. I'll call this a need. It's an expense. We don't want to hide it. And then when I come back, I can categorize it, and here it is. And I've categorized it. Now, all of that raises a question, and that is, boy, that's tedious. You get however many transactions a month. Do you really have to go through and by hand categorize them? Well, the answer is no. Remember, we have this Tiller Money Feeds. It's an add-on in Google Sheets. It's what allows us to connect our financial accounts to the spreadsheet. We can actually see it over here in the add-ons. There it is. There's also a Tiller Money Labs. We'll talk about that in a minute. It has a feature called AutoCAT. If I click that, it's going to allow me to add this feature to the spreadsheet. So I'm going to install it here. And what it does, it just creates another tab. You can see it down here. So we went from categories. It created another tab called AutoCAT, short for automatic categorization, I guess. And you can create rules. So for example, if I go back to transactions and I see recharge, that's for physical therapy because when I work out, sometimes I mess my back up. I can say, okay, well, I know that whenever the description includes recharge, that's going to be medical, right? So now I don't have to actually go through and manually add medical to recharge, and I can run this not only for future transactions, but for all past transactions. So if I click the Run AutoCAT and give it just a second, it goes through the transactions, automatically categorizes them. And you can tell here that I've had a lot of physical therapy over the last 3 months because we've got 9 transactions. And if actually we went back to our transactions, we can see medical in there. So what I have found is that it really doesn't take long to set this up. What I did was I went through my 3 months of transactions that got downloaded. As I was entering the categories for each transaction, I would come over here and I would do just what I did. In this case, whatever the description is, give it the category, run AutoCAT. 3 transactions would be updated, 5 sometimes. In this case, it was 9. And it was literally about 15 minutes worth of effort. And of course, once you've done that, it continues to work going forward. So it's very, very easy to categorize your spending in Tiller, but that AutoCAT feature is really, really important. Now, before we move away from Tiller Money Feeds, I want to go back for a second and point out one other aspect, and that is there are 2 ways to, really, I guess 3 ways to update the data, all of your transactions. In the spreadsheet itself with Tiller Money Feeds open, and by the way, if it's ever not open, you can just come over to Add-ons, Tiller Money Feeds, Open Sidebar, and it takes just a second and it'll open back up. So one thing we can do is simply say Update Sheets. So it's updating now. Don't think it'll have any updates since I just added this a few minutes ago. Yeah, so it tells you here, no new transactions, no new balances, but you can update it, say once a day or however often you update your budget. You can also actually update an account here. You can see here, this same account, I could hit refresh right here in the Tiller console and it would update. The other thing you can do is go to settings and set up what's called auto updates. Now here, and I'll click this, so it will automatically update, but there's one thing to keep in mind, and that is those banks that you've got 2-factor authentication set up, sometimes you have to manually update those by clicking the update sheet because it will present you with the information you need to get into the 2-factor authentication where it texts you a code. But again, I found that process to work very, very smoothly with Tiller and really without any issue. So once you've done all that, you're going to have a ton of data. And the question is, how do you use it? Well, you're going to have your Insights tab, which comes standard with the Tiller Foundation template. And you can look at it, last month, for example, or again, like it was set up last 12 months. You can look at, once you have multiple accounts, I've only got one, but you can select which account to look at. You also have a monthly budget tab. Now, of course, mine is basically empty because I haven't set any budgets. And in terms of categorizing expenses, I've only categorized medical, right? But of course, once you have your data in here, this is going to show you all of both your budget and the actual and how much you have left for that budget category per month. You'll notice here you can select which month you want to look at. If I go to February, the numbers down here will change. And so you can select the month and of course select the year as well. And then you can also look at a yearly budget, which is great. so that you can, I really, month to month is probably the most important, but I really do like to look at the whole year because, as we all know, there are expenses that don't hit every month, like car insurance every 6 months, or gifts at the holidays, or your family vacation or whatever. And so I think it's really good to have an annual view, and of course that's what this does as well. Now, so far we've talked about Tiller Money feeds. I want to show you Tiller Money Labs because this is really cool. If you don't see it here, by the way, you can just click on Get Add-ons. Let me just do this briefly for you. If it'll pop up. Here we go. And you can just search for Tiller. And you'll see the two that come up. And actually, I can just hit enter and search for both, and they'll both come up. And you can add, in this case, Tiller Money Labs. I already have it, but the first time you use it, this basically says, hey, these are new features, and we do our best to make them work well, but they're experimental, so keep that in mind. By the way, I've yet to encounter a problem with one. And they have their privacy policy, which you can read, but I've already done that, so I'm just going to accept it. And it brings us to an amazing amount of tools. And they have what they call solutions, and they have tools. Let's actually go to tools first. And here they have a couple tools, well, one in particular, and it's this split transaction. So if I click on split transaction, it's a tool that, as the name suggests, will allow me to split a transaction across multiple categories. So, for example, this is looking at an expense amount from Nationwide Insurance. Now, in this case, this was car insurance, and it's all going to auto and gas. But let's just say, I don't know, I wanted to split it, and I'll just put charity. I could put $56.90 to charity and split this transaction. Now, I'm not going to actually do that because that would not be correct. I don't actually need to use split transaction a lot, but I know a lot of you do, and so I wanted to show it to you. I'm going to cancel because I don't want to do that. But that's a feature in Money Labs. Now, solutions are where things get really interesting. If we click on the Add Solution, you're going to see solutions for all kinds of things. It takes just a second for it to load. And you can search in a number of different ways. You can search by sort of category. And if you just look at that for a minute, they've got business tools, FIRE for financial independence, retire early. They have retirement tools. Let's just click on that one for a moment. When you do that, you'll see here the solution is a retirement planner, and this gives you a description of what it is. I'm not going to add it today simply because I don't have data to populate it in this particular spreadsheet. But this can be really useful if you're looking to sort of estimate cash flows between now and when you retire, and then even into retirement. Another solution that I like a lot is the debt planner. So you can actually, if you're trying to get out of debt, plan out the debt planner, plan out your payments, how long it's going to take you to get out of debt. It has a net worth template that tracks your net worth over time. I think that's very useful. And then what I use for my business is a dashboard that sort of aggregates all of my business expenses and income in a way, and as you can see it here, with a lot of graphs, charts that really bring the data alive. I will tell you, I'm really only scratching the surface when it comes to all of these solutions. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of them. And the way it works is, for each solution you add, it's basically going to add a tab down below in your spreadsheet. So, and let me just show you this. Let me go back to the solutions. I guess I can use the debt one since I've got a credit card linked to this spreadsheet. So let's go back to that one. And I'm sorry, I don't know if it's my internet that's slow, but it does take a few seconds for this to load. So we'll go back to the debt planner. You'll click Add to Spreadsheet, and it does its magic here. We'll see what kind of data I have. And you can see it's added this debt planner down here. And yeah, I just don't have the data put in. But you'll see just quickly, you've got the snowball method versus the avalanche. And so you can look at the differences for that, which I think is hugely important when you're paying down debt. You can list all of your debts. Now I can add this one here. This is my current balance. No current payment is due. And from here, you can sort of set up a debt plan. Now, in my case, I pay this credit card off in full every month. This is really for those that have maybe past debt, could be student loans, car loans, whatever, credit card debt, that you're not paying off in full every month. And it allows you to a couple things. See all your debt in one place, figure out how much you want to pay off. It'll show you, an estimate of your total interest payments, how much you paid each month. And again, you can reorganize it based on whether you're going to follow a snowball method or an avalanche method, for example. It's a really great tool. I really show you this, though, more just to show you how to use the Tiller Money Labs and the various tools that it offers. They all basically work the same way. You pick the tool that you want, you add it, it creates a tab in the spreadsheet, and from there you can populate the data based on whatever accounts you have linked to the spreadsheet. Now, I will show you, like for example, on my business, I'll open up this spreadsheet. This is my business, and this is the dashboard, which at the moment is not well populated because it's got some data, but I'm still in the process of categorizing everything. And so once I do, we'll all see data here. But this is the kind of thing where I didn't have to create this. It was literally in Tiller Money Labs, a few clicks of the mouse, and here it is. All I need to do is go back through my transactions. You can see I've started to categorize everything, but I still have more to go. I did map out my categories, but I haven't done the groups yet. So like you'll see, there's groups for kids, which was sort of part of the template from Tiller. Obviously, I'll change all of that. So I'm working now on thinking through how I want to group my business expenses. But again, this is a dashboard that once all of that is populated, will give me a wealth of information about my business, how I'm spending my money, how I'm making money. And so I'm really excited to use this tool. I can tell you on the personal side, I'm using it extensively and have all of that data already mapped out. So I know I've kind of walked through this quickly. It's kind of like drinking from a fire hose. I got to tell you, Tiller is an incredibly robust tool. And there is a learning curve. One of the reasons I sort of walk through some of the details with you, hopefully it's clear how to set this up. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll do everything I can to help you out. I will tell you that Tiller has webinars. In fact, they have live webinars every week, and you can also watch past webinars. And they walk through all of this stuff as well, and they do a Q&A and answer questions. I've met the founder at Fincon, which is a personal finance bloggers conference. I've had a chance to speak with team members from Tiller, and they are incredibly helpful. The other thing I'll mention is Tiller has a really great online community, and so you can ask questions there. It really is a remarkable budgeting and money management tool. I use it, as I said, in conjunction with Personal Capital, and I'm kind of addicted, if I'm being totally honest. So that's sort of a high level and quick sort of review, and maybe a user's guide. I will link an article below this video that has sort of more details and a walkthrough on how I use Tiller. But again, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and until next time, remember, the best thing money can buy is financial freedom.